Thanks for joining me. In my last videos, I completed the Colorado 14ers and wanted to do a little follow-up. Just got back to Colorado, kind of hiking around and acclimatizing. I plan on doing the Colorado Centennials, which is the top 100. Did a hiking trip in 2017 to a lot of the state high points out west, and one of those was Mount Elbert in Colorado, which was my first 14er. It was 4 years later in 2021 that I spent 2 weeks, did about 14 14ers in 9 different hikes. One of those is Mount Bierstadt. I'm currently hiking on. Then the following year in 2022, I returned, but it was early June, and I failed on several attempts that I kind of underestimated, and a lot of snow as well, but managed to get, I believe, it's 2 or 3 that year. A couple of the nice ones were Blanca and Ellingwood, but I turned around on Humboldt and Kit Carson and Challenger. 2023, I visited Colorado, but I just kind of did the touristy thing, visiting a lot of the state parks. Didn't do any big hikes. In 2024, I pretty much spent 2 months of the summer just full go. Did about 30 some of them. Don't know exactly, but I only left like 3 or 4 on the table. 2025, last summer, I finished them off. Like I said, a few of them were ones I had to repeat. One was Blue Sky, which I had driven up, but you can go over Bierstadt to it. And I finished off with Long's Peak. The first times I visited Colorado, I went to Rocky Mountain National Park and saw Long's Peak, and people would ask me why I chose it, and that's the reason why. One of the first 14ers I laid eyes on. So probably the next question would be, why do this? You know, it's kind of a challenge. You're challenging yourself, push yourself to get to the top. A lot of these are really risky and dangerous. You have to really be prepared. One of the main reasons I enjoy hiking is the scenery and getting some exercise. And some of the 14ers I did, you get back there in the mountains and see some really amazing places that are hidden up there. Next thing is preparation. I mentioned, like for right now, I'm trying to get acclimatized to altitude. You gotta have proper hydration, taking some vitamins and etc. Being prepared for the weather, you know, rain jacket, gloves, first aid kit, proper navigation, whole list of things, a lot of things to be prepared for. Yeah, part of that preparation is just getting out there hiking, exercising, but definitely being prepared for the rocky, rough terrain. Right now I got a trail running vest and trail running shoes on. Sometimes you can choose to do a shorter hike and go lightweight, or do a longer hike with a backpack. I also don't have my hiking poles, which I usually swear by. It's nice to kind of rely on them, almost like a crutch, but what I really found is that when you're doing stream crossings, something narrow, they really help you kind of balance along. You can put a pole down and walk across some stones or whatnot. There's also some of those more dangerous 14ers that people mention. There are several hikes that a climbing helmet is highly recommended. really a risk of rocks falling, but that can be the case on almost any of these 14ers, so better safe than sorry. While I'm talking about safety, people always bring up the topic of the most difficult or dangerous 14ers. There are several ones that people have unfortunately lost their lives on. Capitol Peak with the knife edge, really got to scoot across. See people go across in groups and get roped in just to be safe. I also did the Maroon Bells Traverse. There are some that I made more difficult on my own. I did Missouri and chose to do the ridge over to Belford and Oxford, I believe. And that was pretty dangerous. Some of the other dangerous hikes weren't the 14er itself, but the conditions, lightning and thunderstorm. It's definitely something you don't want to get caught in. Definitely want to check the weather conditions, but you always want to start early and be off the summit by noon or before noon. You have these days in the mountains of Colorado where wake up, it's clear blue skies, and by noon you got thunderstorms rolling in. And on a lighter note, talk about the easiest 14ers. And I say no 14er is easy, but there are some that are a lot less difficult. One, for example, is Bierstadt that I'm on. You can see the summit from the parking lot over here. Handy's Peak as well, especially from the upper trailhead, but that requires four-wheel drive, fairly high clearance. I'm almost at 12,000 feet, but I wanted to do a little hike in the evening, and I think it's about time to turn around. I still have a little bit of daylight. Just wanted to go for a little hike here, keep getting acclimatized. I mentioned light, so you do something early, we're planning on being out late. Headlamp is another thing that's really critical to have. About time to stop, have a drink. Definitely want to make sure you have enough water depending on the hike. I like to go light and carry a small water filter, but I also check to see if there's going to be any water sources. I use AllTrails to navigate, and on there they'll show water sources, as well as some people will leave comments mentioning where they found water as well. Mention a first aid kit. It's really to your discretion what you want to have, you know, any Tylenol, things like that, stuff that can help with altitude sickness. Main things I like to carry are wrap and tape in case, you know, an injury or a rolled ankle or whatnot. If doing a longer hike, you may have to be concerned about blisters and whatnot as well. I used to get them on my toes a lot and start wearing toe socks, but seemed to be they're like cutting off the circulation in my toes and my toenails were falling off. Well, I've switched back to the compression socks. I like to wear a lot of compression gear, Under Armour gear, stuff that's light, layer up, stuff that can wick away moisture. I mentioned layering because you often get up, start a hike really early and it's cool and you have a tendency to overdress and then you're exerting yourself and you sweat really quick. I've seen this with other hikers, and before you know it, they're shedding layers, but then they're all wet, and then they get near a summit and it's windy and cold. So you really got to moderate your temperature and be really cognizant of that. Tracking this little hike with my watch. As I mentioned, I use AllTrails, and it's a good navigation tools, but it's nothing like having a map or definitely being aware of the trail and where you're going. You don't want to get lost on some of these 14ers. The sun's about to set. Still got my shades on. It's another thing I thought of was sunblock, sunscreen. Even on a cool day like this, a little bit of sun, you don't think much about it, but in the high altitude, the air is really thin and you can get sunburnt a lot easier than at lower elevation. Also making sure you pack enough food and snacks and stuff that's really calorie dense, and energy gels if you're doing a longer hike. If I'm doing a longer challenging hike, I just make sure I carb load the day before and I eat a really big breakfast as well. There were a few times, and one was pretty much necessary, that you have to backpack in and camp to access some of these areas, such as the Chicago Basin, where you can take the Durango to Silverton train ride and you get dropped off at the Needleton flag stop. I really like to challenge myself in day hike, even some of the longer ones like Capitol Peak and Snowmass for 20 plus miles. I did Crestone, Needle, and Peak from the lower trailhead because I didn't have 4-wheel drive. But many of those, and even just your average 14er where you have an area available to camp, it's best just get in there, hike in, camp for the night, and then summit early in the morning. The only other thing I can think of right now, you're camping, hiking, any of this, is just the leave no trace principles, you know. Pack it in, pack everything out, and also just try to stay on trails. Some more fragile areas, I've seen people just cutting switchbacks on hillsides and getting really eroded, so I'll get on my soapbox and mention that. So I'd say lastly, just whatever you do, you challenge yourself. Want to do one or do all the 14ers, you know, just get out here and have fun. I'm enjoying just walking this right now, even though I sound a little lethargic. I didn't get enough sleep last night, but I'm still out here at it. Feel free to leave any questions and comments down below. I'll try to answer anything else I didn't bring up. And also, as I mentioned, I do plan on starting the Centennial Top 100 here now. I think I'm going to start with Mount Meeker and Rocky Mountain National Park, so stay tuned for that one. And thanks for watching.